grades worked yesterday, just so you know. Or not yesterday, last week. V11 and V12 were combined. Obviously, you got to get your grade plus what, or your grade is whatever you get plus 10. Yes? Understand that. The smallest grade I'll allow for points is a 70. So if you get a 60, it's a zero. Even if you got a 60 on just V11, it is a zero. So you have to have at least a 70 on both V11 and V12 to get a grade that's not a zero. Do we understand that? Okay. E1 and 2 are also a grade combined. We understand that. Okay. So when you go and check your grades, some of you, there's a handful of you that still aren't complete on one or multiple of those. So you need to make sure you get those done. Okay. And then another one that we were working on last week was E3. We are going to combine E3's grade, which is what we did on Friday, to 4 and 5, which we are doing today. And that'll be our last IXLs with all this nonsense, and then we'll start actually graphing some stuff. All right? So that's how that works. Make sure you understand that and you've got that figured out. All right? So today we're going to get out our notes, and we're going to take a couple notes down on today's assignment. Actual notes today. Okay, these are square root rules. I want it to be on the very next page of, we did those exponent rules. I think it's just was it just a white sheet that we glued for the exponent rules, or did we have it colored? Just a white and gray. On the next page of that, okay, there's going to be some square root rules. Okay, I can't remember if we talked about this one last week or not, but regardless, we need it wrote down in our notes. The square root of 9 squared. Anybody know what the square root of 9 squared is? Well, 9 squared is 81. But what's the square root of 81? 9, right? If I did 9 times 9, I get 81. And what is the square root of 81? 9. Therefore, the square root of 9 squared is just simply what? 9. Okay, well, what if I put a 4 in there? The square root of 4 squared. 4 times 4 is 16. The square root of 16 is? Do we see a pattern? When we have a square in a square root, the answer is just what? Whatever that number was. Did we talk about that last week or not? Yes, cool. All right, so we ought to know it. You didn't have to spend much time on it. So what if it's just a random letter like x? What if it's the square root of x squared? What would that answer be? X. Easy peasy. Okay. If there's an x inside of it, or sorry, if there's a square root inside of there's a square inside of a square root, it's just the number that is underneath it. Yes? Easy and simple and not hard, right? Okay. This is the exact same thing. I want you to write this right below that. Okay. If I had the square root of 4 times the square root of 4, isn't that the same thing as multiplying 4 twice? So it doesn't matter which one of these answers, which way it looks. What's the answer to that? 4. Okay, that's important. That's very, very helpful when we're doing today's assignment. Okay. All right? All right. So that's the first example, or that's the first thing we need to talk about, rule 1. Okay? Put a little line underneath your paper or underneath those couple examples we've made. Okay? And let's do rule 2 here. Okay? And all it is what do we do when we have multiplication? So for example, let's do a real easy one like the square root or 3 square roots of 2 times 4 square roots of 3. Okay, with multiplication, again, can you plug this into your calculator and let it pop out the right answer? Yeah, it will. Okay, it will. But it's a lot easier to do this in your head if you know what you're doing. Okay, when you are multiplying, you can only multiply normal numbers together. For example, what I'm saying, what do I mean by normal numbers? What are the normal numbers in this? 3 and 4. Okay, it's probably a better word for that. But I can only multiply those regular numbers. And what is 3 times 4? 12. So my regular numbers are 12, and I can only multiply my square roots. So I can multiply the square root of 2 and the square root of 3. What is 2 times 3? 6. And you think that goes underneath the square root or outside the square root? Inside of it. Boom. There's your answer. Easy peasy lemon squeeze. Not hard. Right? Okay. Here's a little bit of an exception. Or not a little exception, but a little extra work you need to make sure you check out. Let's say we have, this is a perfect one. 2 squared times the square root of 10. Are there any big numbers or regular numbers outside we need to multiply together? No. So we multiply the numbers inside, and what do we get? 20. Okay. Now, don't just automatically say, oh, my answer is the square root of 20. Sometimes you'll have to pull out a number. For instance, on this one, what 2 numbers can we multiply to get 20? 5 and 4. Are either of those perfect squares? 4, right? So what is the square root of 4? 2. So it'd be 2 pulled out, square roots of 5. You see how you may have to do an extra step. Okay, now here's an easier way, I think, to do that. Okay, before I go ahead and multiply, I'm going to go ahead and change this 10. What 2 numbers can I multiply to get 10? 5 and 2. So I have the square root of 5, the square root of 2 and the square root of 5. Oh, looky there. How many square roots of 2 do I have? 2. So what did we say if we have the square root of 2 times the square root of 2? What does that become? Just 2. And what's left over? 5. See how either way you could do that? You could separate that 10 out right now and see if anything that matches, or you can go ahead and times them and then see if anything needs pulled out. Kind of with me halfway? Let's do one more just to make sure. Let's go square root of 15 times the square root of, let's just go 5. Easy peasy. Okay. We could just multiply those right now, yes? Well, let's try to save a little bit of work. What numbers, I promise you, more than likely, I don't know sometimes. All right, what 2 numbers can I multiply to get 15? Square root of 5 and the square root of 3, and I have the square root of 5. So do I have any matches? The square root of 5 times the square root of 5 gives me what? 5. So I pull out a 5 out in front, and I'm left with the square root of 3. That makes sense? We with you? Okay. Now also, never mind. That'll work. All right. So the key and important thing is, you don't have to write this one down. What 2 numbers can I multiply? I can multiply 2 different things here. What can I multiply this 3 by? The 5. What can I multiply this square root of 4 by? The 6. Do we understand you can only multiply stuff inside the square roots with stuff inside, and stuff outside stays outside? We good? Okay. All right. That's rule 2. Rule 3, the even easiest one, most easiest of all. Okay, is an addition problem. 3 square roots of 5 plus 4 square roots of 5. Okay, number 1 rule when you're adding and subtracting, your square roots have to be the same. Are my square roots the same on this problem? Yep, I have the square root of 5 and the square root of 5, yes? So I just add the numbers in front. What are the numbers in front? I have a positive 3 and a positive 4, which gives me what? I add the regular numbers, and my square roots have to be the same. One more time, are they the same? So you put the square root of 5. You don't do anything to the square root, okay? All that's telling you is you have 7 square roots of 5. There's 7 of those. Do you do anything to square roots when you're adding or subtracting? Easy. Just add the number in front. But what do you got to make sure about those square roots? Have to be the same. You heard? So the only hard one they're going to give you is something like this. Now, let's just do one example that's negative. So you guys know how to do math. -2. Well, first of all, are my square roots the same? Yes, so I just add my regular numbers. I have a -2 and a what? What does a -2 and a -6 give you? Yeah, see, that's why I did this example. It ain't 4. Negative what? 8. Plug in your calculator if you can't do daggum negative numbers. I spin 2, I spin 6, that's a -8. Don't rush it and get it wrong because you can't add or subtract negative numbers. Okay? How come I didn't change the square root of 10 back there? It don't change. Okay? It don't not change never. Okay? So here's the hard one you're going to get. 5 square roots of 3. And then it'll be, let's say, 75 plus 2 square roots of 75. Would be perfect. Are your square roots the same? So we have to get the square roots the same. So which one of those do you think we could simplify? Which square root do you think we could simplify? 75. What two numbers can we multiply to get 75? Hint, hint, 25 and some other number. 25 and 3. So I have the square root of 25 and the square root of 3. Watch what happens. Which one of those is perfect squares? So we pull out the square root of 25, which is? So we have 5 square roots of 3. Okay? So with this problem right here, though, I also have this 2. So what do you think I need to do with that 2 and that 5? Which, add them or multiply? Which? Multiply, good, because that 2 is timesing by that, right? Since there's nothing. So there would be 2 times 5, which is 10, square roots of 3. So did we end up getting a square root of 3 out of that? Boom, cool, shakalaka. Now, if you get to that, you could just plug that into your calculator. So it'll give you 10 square roots of 3, and then you can do your math and rock and roll. So now what do? Add 5 and 10 give you 15. What do I do with the square root of 3? Make it 6? No, do you mess with it when it's adding? Okay, we got our rules down, yes? All right, so you need to make sure you've got all work done on those IXLs that I just gave you, and then your other two today are, what did I say? Yeah, let me bring it up so you can see it. EE4 and 5. Now you might run into one that's a little funky. That's why I exist. Ask lots of questions, okay? Lots of time today. These are the easiest ones probably that we've done. Lots of time to get these done and then hopefully get caught up on the other ones if you aren't. Oh, another thing I do need to say. Everybody listen to this. I've already put in the grade for these two in red here. So if you get one done, you've got to let me know or I ain't changing. Does it make sense? You need to make sure you get one done or you need to tell me if you get one done or I'm not changing the grade because I'm not going to go back and look unless I need to.